Hi everybody, Matt back with you. Hope you're okay. Welcome to the dark side of the moor. Well, it's hardly the dark side today. It's a bright June afternoon. And for all of us who prefer spooky season, Halloween and October still seems quite a long way away. However, June does bring us a wonderful date on the horror calendar. It brings us Friday the 13th. So today is just a short video. I am currently in Huddersfield and I'm going to go to Halifax, and I'm going to bring you two locations, haunted cinemas. Both cinemas are no longer cinemas, they are both former picture house cinemas, one in Huddersfield and one in Halifax. So let's head to find our Huddersfield haunted picture house. Okay, so behind me is the former Grand Picture Theatre, which was built in 1921 and became a cinema in 1929. I would love to say that this is an old abandoned cinema, but unfortunately it is just the front of the cinema. Only that bit remains. Behind it, it's built onto a supermarket, so it's kind of the facade of what the Grand Picture Theatre looked like before. I am right next to a road, so I'll tell you a little bit more about this place and what is supposed to haunt it and its claim to fame in 1977. Built as the Grand Picture Theatre in 1921, it became the Picture House Cinema in 1929. It was the second cinema in Huddersfield to have sound fitted. As TVs began to come into people's houses in the 1950s, the cinema seemed to go on a decline. So it's unsurprising that this one became a bingo hall in 1957. By 1972, though, it took on perhaps its most famous incarnation. It became Ivanhoe's nightclub. On Christmas Day, 1977, Ivanhoe's nightclub etched itself into the rock and roll history books. Or should I say, punk history books. On Christmas Day 1977 in the afternoon, the venue was the scene of what became the final UK gig of the Sex Pistols. That afternoon, the band hosted a party for local kids of underprivileged families, including those of firefighters who were on strike. Naturally, the party ended up as a food fight. This was at the end of a very successful but controversial year for the group. Although they had a #1 hit, they had been banned by many radio stations, had been banned from the TV for swearing live on air, and there were internal conflicts and issues within the band itself. However, on this Christmas Day, the Sex Pistols stood in solidarity with the firefighters and made sure that all the kids got presents and merchandise. Lots of them headed home with t-shirts, records, badges, etc. from the day. And in a way, I'm sure for those there, it was a Christmas day they would never forget. It also marked the end of the Sex Pistols because a US tour followed in 1978, and by January 14th, the band imploded. And only a year later, Sid Vicious passed away from a drug overdose. However, 1978 was also the start of strange things happening in the cinema. 1978 saw the first reports of a ghost on the balcony inside the cinema. The nightclub bouncers would see everybody out at the end of the night, and on locking up, they could still hear somebody walking around on the balcony. They went to investigate, but there was nobody there, yet the footsteps were clear. They were worried that somebody would be locked in inside. Both bouncers reported to the owner what they'd heard and their worries, and the owner decided to stay one night and listen for himself. And sure enough, at the end of the night, the footsteps came back on the balcony. They decided to investigate the history of the building, and 2 incidents had happened inside, which may have caused a restless spirit to remain in the building. Firstly, from its bingo days of the 1950s, it was said that one of the winners of the bingo had passed away after winning and before she'd collected her prize. Also, when it was a cinema, a projectionist was said to have died whilst sat on the balcony. So is it possible that either of these 2 who passed away inside were causing the issues? By 2005, the building behind the facade on the picture was demolished and turned into a supermarket. So the question is there a ghost now wandering the aisles of Lidl? Okay, that is Huddersfield's Picture House Cinema and its ghostly hauntings from 1978 and its history as being the final concert performance of the original, or kind of the best known Sex Pistols. Let's head to Halifax. Let's bring you some more horror. Okay, so now I'm in Halifax and heading to look for what to me was the former Coliseum Nightclub, but if you go further back in time, in 1919 it was built as the Picture House. Then, as always seems to be the case, these cinemas become bingo halls, then they become nightclubs. It's actually currently being turned into a church, which seems very interesting. So it does have some scaffolding up at the moment, but I'll show you some pictures of it as well, and I'll tell you about what happened here when there was a screening of the Ghost of Frankenstein.
Tell me, who am I? You are Dr. Dr. Frankenstein.
And you are Dr. Kettering.
I am not Dr. Kettering. I am Igor.
What have I done?
I'm Igor. I have the strength of 100 men. I cannot die. I cannot be destroyed. I, Igor, will live forever.
So once again we are next to a busy road, so I won't stand here too long. I shall speak to you in picture format instead so you can hear them. This was the former picture house, built in 1919, and it's a very impressive looking building. And yeah, as a 90s clubber, this was the Coliseum to me. 10p drinks and a sticky floor. Our cinema was actually the one just over here. But back in the 1940s and 50s, it was very, very popular, a big cinema, and they had a 600 screen cinema. 1950, they were showing The Ghost of Frankenstein, the 1940s horror film. All of a sudden, something happened. 600 people were watching The Ghost of Frankenstein in one of the screens in the cinema, when all of a sudden, the screen went red and the image disappeared. The people sat watching turned up to the projection booth, and they could see the projection booth was on fire. The public started to flee from the building, and all 600 of them escaped. But one person didn't. 25-year-old Raymond Farrar was a new father to a 7-week-old baby, and he was the projectionist on duty that night. He was the only person to perish in the fire. Since then, there have been many reports of incidents and noises inside the building, whether it was as the cinema, as the bingo hall, or as the nightclub just on the top floor, where there were noises, taps turning on, lights switching on, and doors banging. Over the years, various members of staff refused to go upstairs after things that they'd experienced in the building. One of the owners of the nightclub once said that when they were upstairs, if the banging or noises started, they would just shout out hello to Raymond and things calmed down. Raymond was buried at the graveyard at King Cross in Halifax. But it would be interesting to know if the noises still happen in the new version of the building, the church.
Over! You played me a trick! What good is a brain without eyes to see? What good is a brain without eyes?
Okay folks, there we go. That is our look at 2 haunted picture houses of the past and their respective ghosts and a little bit of history as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. Hope you enjoy Friday the 13th. And if you are watching this on Friday the 13th as it is released, Danny and I will currently be at Cultplex in Manchester, and we are on a Friday the 13th marathon. So we're watching, I think, 4 of the films till about 4 o'clock in the morning. So wish us luck with that. However, it does mean I can now introduce you to our new strand here on the dark side of the moor. We are going to be looking at horror films we go to. I often post pictures going, we're here at Wolfman, or Clown in a Cornfield, or The Monkey. You may as well find out our opinion or my opinion on them as well. So it's just a new strand to the channel. We'll see if it does any good. Problem is, I love horror films. I'm not a critic, so it will mostly be me going, thumbs up, it's great. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed our little spooky trip today. It is roasting. I'm at the Peace Hall. I'm off to find some liquid refreshment. See you soon. Take care. Bye for now. If you're interested in the history of all the cinemas that have been in the Calder Valley, from Halifax to Todmorden, and maybe even slightly beyond, don't forget to check out our Lost Cinemas of the Calder Valley video.